We're live
Live.
on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitch.
Nice.
So pretty exciting.
All right.
Gotta mute that. Man, it is so hard to talk when there's like your own voice coming back into your head with like a little bit of a delay.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. I don't know if do either of you have you ever watched Rhett and Link? They have a whole series where they call it like voice jamming, where they like specifically try to make people make phone calls while they're getting like a 1.5 second delay of like repeat in their ears, and it actually like physically like messes with your brain to a point where like you actually can't talk anymore. Like they
That's
call
funny.
it voice jamming or something like that. So yeah, looks like we've got Osiris in the house. I'm gonna go head over to Twitch and see if I can pull the stream that nobody watches up on Twitch.
There you go. Yeah.
And then
it kind of stresses you out when $1,000 piece of equipment just all of a sudden stops working and you're not sure why. But Rex knows a little something about that recently with a camera. You can tell Dustin's got an A7S III as well sitting on his desk. So he'll appreciate your story.
Okay. Yeah, Dustin. So you got to be careful. I built a whole camera rig and I was powering the AS3 from like top of the line batteries, Anton Bauer external batteries, kind of like what Joel's got. And I had it plugged into the D-tap, and then I had a dummy battery. So there was actually like, fake battery inside the camera that was supposed to be powering it. And it worked fine for like a day. And then the next day I turned it on and I was running it. And all of a sudden my screen kind of went purple and like it shut off. And I was like, that was kind of weird. And I like tried to turn it off and back on and like never came back on. So I pulled the battery out and kind of let it sit for a while. Let all the capacitors dissipate and everything.
Yep.
So it'd be copacetic again. Put like a genius, put the same configuration back in, fired it up. It turned on, screen went purple, shut down, and then I couldn't ever get it to turn back on. So just like totally fried something inside. Yeah. So luckily it was still under warranty. So I sent it off and it was gone for about a month. But yeah, got it back and I'm filming on it now. The repair ticket said they had to replace, I don't remember what they called it, some designation that didn't mean anything, but some board on the inside they had to replace. So pretty bogus.
That sucks.
Yeah, not fun when your main camera takes a crap on you.
I just got that camera not too long ago and I'm still trying to figure it out. It's pretty freaking sweet.
Yeah, it's super powerful. So I don't know. I really like it. Like I've been really liking the Sony stuff. So
I wish there were more lenses.
Yeah, the G Master lenses seem pretty nice. Expensive.
Yeah.
And the kind of off-brand stuff, I've heard lots of good things, but I'm a brand snob a little bit. So it's like if I'm going to have a Sony camera, I might as well have all the Sony lenses.
Right. I know some people who run the adapters. And
yeah.
I don't know. It seems janky.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's like, it just feels janky. So.
Yeah, Craig at Area 419, he's the one who runs an adapter on his. And I was like,
Okay.
So Rex, what are we talking about tonight on Rex Allen Creative?
Man, for those that are just joining this channel without having been on our past stream, which is probably nobody, but I know I've got a couple guys on LinkedIn that are watching right now. So, they weren't a part of our last live stream. So we'll probably just kind of introduce Dustin again so that everybody can kind of know who he is. And I don't know, probably introduce yourself too, Joel, because I know a couple of guys on LinkedIn probably don't know who you are either. So this is probably their first introduction to our stream here. But I mean, most people that are tuned in probably know who I am, but
well, I can get myself out of the way. I'm the boring one here. You guys are the real businessmen. So I My name's Joel Wise. I own the Precision Rifle Network. It's a YouTube channel and brand, and another YouTube channel and brand called Everyday Ready, which is more geared towards, prepper, survivalist, outdoorsy kind of people. And kind of just another channel trying to stay away from the guns, since YouTube hates the guns a little bit. But I do precision rifle related content on YouTube mainly, and I'm a photographer for hire and videographer for hire. But Rex and I get together and we talk business and creative stuff. I'm kind of a creative problem solver, entrepreneur. I love to start things, but when it comes to actually keeping them running, I don't have an administrative bone in my body. So
we were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah.
Joel's a starter. But you're good at keeping stuff going when it's your YouTube stuff. I mean, PRN's been going for 5 years, and
I
don't know. I feel like you're good at executing on those things, but other things maybe not as much.
Yeah. Well said and enough said. Well said and enough said.
Yeah.
Joel's
a humble bragger.
And I'm Dustin Coleman, and my wife and I, we own ColeTac, and people who don't know, it's a bunch of sewing ladies. We sew all sorts of different items, mainly around the firearms industry, firearms and hunting, so it's a lot of fabric and webbing and buckles, and we get to make all sorts of cool stuff with it. So.
Yeah, and we'll get more into this, but Joel and Dustin are both downplaying how cool they are. They're both pretty cool dudes, and they do a lot of cool stuff. So the normal setting of the live stream is I'm sitting here and Joel's sitting here, and we just kind of chat back and forth. But Joel's out on vacation and just happens to be in the location of Dustin's new shop.
Yep.
He just moved from New Hampshire, and they just got a new building out there. And they're going to maintain both of those facilities. So, they're still kind of in that final stage of setting up their new shop, and Dustin's, moving the family out to South Dakota. And so that's why Joel and I aren't together. And we're super excited to have Dustin on the channel with us tonight. And just, last time we kind of talked more precision rifle stuff, but we'll get him to chat a little bit more about business and, kind of that story. In the last stream, we talked a little bit about kind of that process of, growing in New Hampshire from, you started out in your spare bedroom or quickly moved into your garage. Yep.
Yeah. Spare bedroom, then the basement. And then it was like, we were, packaging orders on the kitchen table, and kids were rolling up suppressor covers. Literally, that was their job, literally sitting there rolling up suppressor covers, right at the kitchen table. And then, have bought a building out there, started hiring employees, and just seems like every time we start expanding, we're like, okay, once we get this all in place, it's going to be easy and it's going to be smooth. And then about the time we get done with whatever that project or expansion or order is, the next three come on top of it. So it's always this game of just trying to run and keep your feet underneath you, and it hasn't stopped yet.
Yeah, it's been, so in the last stream, we talked kind of about when we met. It was back when I was at Silencer Co. So that was probably 2015, 2016, somewhere in that time frame, so 6
when were you working on the Maxim?
I left in 2017, so it would have been 2016 SHOT Show probably.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So, it's been a while. And in 2016, how big was ColeTac? It was certainly big enough that when I met you, I already knew who you were. But the products that you make were in the niche. You talked about kind of building for a niche community, and I was in your community. Right. So I already knew who you were personally. I knew about the company, had already purchased your products. So you were at least already to a point where the market was aware of you.
Yeah. So in 2016, it was still just my wife and I.
Wow.
Every single thing that came out was her and I, and it was zero sleep. That's what it was. Though 2016 and 2017, as far as the amount of hours we put in were phenomenal. Because I had a full-time job,
Yeah.
And so it was, getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning, being to work by, 8, working all day there, getting home, running kids around to all their different activities, and then start sewing at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night, sewing emails, all the business end stuff, and do that till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And it was months, and I mean, it was a year of that. And eventually, it was just like when it got, and it's always this. It was kind of a scary time, as far as like when we started talking about when I was talking about leaving my job, because it was, you're always told like that's the safe path.
That's what they tell you, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, but you can be gone at any moment.
Yeah.
And so, but it's still nerve wracking because you've been told that, you've got great healthcare, you've got a great,
Yep. Go to college, get an education, get a degree,
yep,
get a job, stay in that job till you die, or that's right. The old way, and kind of the newer way is get a job and then get another job and then another job and then another job. But that's certainly the way that we're taught, is that jobs are secure and jobs are safe, and
right,
job is the way to do it. So I mean, just kind of curious, like what was that determining factor for you, when you decided, okay, now's the time to like quit the job and like do this full time? Was it money or like what was it?
I mean, it was literally just no sleep. It came to the point where, we had to basically make the decision. Either we have to quit doing our own thing, and because something had to give. And at that point, we were big enough where, we at least had some history under us. We started in 2015, and so by 2017, we had several years of it, or we had a couple of years of watching how this worked.
Yeah,
and I had enough experience within the industry, as far as my full-time job, that I kind of had the mindset like, if it all falls apart, I can always get another job.
You've got that degree to fall back on, and
I've got a degree to fall back on.
Yeah.
And right. And I had enough connections within, our industry that I think throughout that network of people, if everything fell apart, I could have just said, well, it was a good try, and get a job and go back to doing the, 8 to 5. So that was kind of the bigger thing. It was just realizing that, the worst case scenario isn't that bad. And I knew that if I wouldn't have at least tried, it would always been like, what if, what would have been if I would have, kept going and didn't back out.
Yeah. I mean, my wife and I kind of had a lot of those conversations, leading up to, my departure from the 9 to 5, of just like, I've started a couple businesses along the way. I mean, you probably remember when it was High Desert Precision, like forever ago, right? That was like my first business that I started. And really, I just wanted to be able to get industry deals, So I started that just as a way to kind of get, guns at dealer price and stuff. And then kind of, got couple buddies that wanted to do it too. And we started Max Effective together.
Yep.
And then we all just kind of like ended up moving to different places, and that kind of fizzled out. And essentially it came down to like, I liked the brand that I had built at Max Effective more than High Desert Precision. So I was like, hey, can I just like take that and run with it? So I ended up with Max Effective and kind of run that now. And that's kind of the lingering effect of, all of that. But I've just kind of have always liked to play around in business and start stuff. And, over the last year, kind of starting to do more content stuff on the side, kind of like you, I've got my full-time engineering job, but I've got this other stuff that I'm doing. And I actually, started finding that I enjoyed that a lot more.
Right.
It was a lot more fun and a lot more free form rather than engineering work that's super technical. And then, working for a large publicly traded company where it's, technical and very cost sensitive. And it was just like, I don't know, so kind of having those conversations with my wife of, you've always wanted to start a business. Now would be a great time to like actually like for real try it instead of just like having
Right.
this like little side thing going on, so just kind of decided to go for it because no regrets, but yeah, I wanted to try it and see if I could do it and put my whole heart and soul into it to see if I could make it work. And now that's what we're doing, so
Well,
it's,
and I mean, kind of, you're in the same spot that I was in, as far as if everything falls apart with this, with what you're doing now, like there's companies that'll swoop you up and you'll be just fine.
yeah, you might have to explain a little bit of, a year-long hiatus when you weren't doing engineering work, but
right.
if anything, that probably makes you a more valuable engineer to the right company.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And and the other thing that I've kind of realized too since then is like when you're working for somebody else, like the chances of your income going to zero tomorrow is like, that's a real thing. Like you could not to sit there and be fired, be let go, be laid off. I've been laid off before. Like to go from, I've got this steady stream of income to zero is a real possibility.
Yeah.
Where like now, like with this going, like I don't know of a scenario where like overnight our business would collapse. Like I think we've got enough, we're smart about like how far we get extended on certain projects sometimes. So like to sit there and like, if stuff started going south, we would have time to like correct and change and
it's going to be slow. Like, say there was like a big shift in the market or something and nobody needed suppressor covers anymore because they got banned or whatever, I mean, there's going to be time to where you can kind of pivot and your customers might start to taper off, but you can come out with a different product that kind of brings that back up, so that's kind of a good thought. I've never really thought of that thought before, but that, that's a good way to think about it, of just like, when you're an employee, it can go to zero overnight.
Right. Yeah. It would take quite a bit for me to get fired from here.
That's certainly like one of the appeals of running my own business is like being on my own time, getting to choose my clients, getting to work on projects that I'm passionate about. But like ultimately it's just kind of having that freedom, both from a time perspective and also, I mean, at some point get to a point where it's financially that way too, of like much more secure than being an employee. And then obviously kind of the other side of that factors into it is, kind of having unlimited potential of what you can achieve, whether that's growing a huge business or becoming totally financially free, where you're building a product to where your time isn't money anymore. And just kind of all that stuff is just like, you have a lot more impact on your income as a business owner than you do as an employee, I've seen the projects that I've worked on bring massive amounts of money into an organization. And certainly there's a synergy there, the Gunworks silencer program, that I kind of spearheaded there. It's like, Rex Ribelin silencers, Rex Allen silencers, whatever, wouldn't do what the Gunworks silencers do, obviously. So, there's a marriage there that kind of happens, but it's like my salary didn't change one nickel from before silencers were done to after they were done, even though there was, a huge change in the bottom line. So I think having all of those extra hours that I put in, be able to turn around and like come back to me is something that I, really looked forward to and, was part of that deciding factor of like, I'm putting in like double time here and I'm not even getting bonuses or anything, so it's just like, what are we doing? Right.
Yeah. It's kind of does shift the way how you look at work and time and all that. But, that's kind of the name of the game too, is if it's not your name on it, if it's not your thing, you agree to a salary and that's, and you can pretty well map out, kind of like what you're saying, as far as potential, like, within a general bounds, like if you'd have stayed wherever you were at, like where you could be both in a position or an income for the rest of your life. And like, that's okay to some, and some kind of want to do something different.
Yeah. I've been making a lot bigger effort on LinkedIn recently. Just, I think a lot of potential clients are on there, and just kind of using that more as my social media medium of choice versus Instagram and Facebook. I'm pretty fed up with Instagram. I mean, Rex Allen Creative would be fine on there because it's not like specifically firearms, but my max effective page, went from 24,000 followers to like, I think it's like 15.9 now. So, I mean, it's almost half. And for me, that's like super disheartening. It's like, why am I putting effort into this when I just losing traction, So
we were talking about that same thing earlier tonight. How
I mean, it's tough.
He knows about the sticker on the back of my wife's car.
Yeah,
he knows.
Yeah.
A kitten Toast. Like, how the heck does that actually? But I mean, I get it. Toast is a cute kitten, but still, like, I put years into my page.
Yeah.
It took years to get to 16,000.
Yeah.
And and now it's just grinding because I'm pretty well. I think I'm throttled.
Yeah.
On there, and so
you're pretty well established now. Yeah.
But no, but even so, like new followers, like we barely gain anything just because I think we're limited in who they show our stuff to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really frustrating, man. I think, that's kind of what led in a large part to why Joel started Everyday Ready, just fed up with firearm stuff getting hammered. And, I worry about that a little bit, because obviously my industry and my experience has been in firearms and outdoor industry. And I'm hesitant to kind of make that marriage between, the content work that I'm doing and then sharing it on social, because I'm worried that will kind of make it more difficult for me to grow my business, at least on the social networks. So yeah, I mean, they're kind of tough things to figure out and decide what to do.
It's so different, between it. Just one of the things that I wanted to see and test with the Everyday Ready channel was how fast can I grow it? Number one, and number two, how long will it be before the revenue stream from Everyday Ready, just through the AdSense program, Google AdSense program for YouTube, just that alone, when will the revenue from Everyday Ready catch up and surpass Precision Rifle Network? And so Precision Rifle Network has got just over 30,000 subscribers. And I don't have any problem telling this crowd of people who watch this that I probably get about $350 to $400 a month from YouTube for all the videos and all the content that we put out. Everyday Ready has just over 2,500 subscribers, and I'm already more than a third of the way up to the revenue of the Precision Rifle Network page.
Now, do you think so? Everyday Ready, it's not firearms related, but it is, prepping and
survival.
Right. So, do you think, is there any concern? I don't know if it's not a conservative topic, but it's definitely not like, I don't know, how to make organic, green, how to grow organic greens, or I don't know. Do you think that the platforms would have any bias towards that kind of stuff just because it doesn't I don't know if it doesn't fit their narrative or doesn't fit their likes? Is that something?
It's just not offensive.
It's not as offensive.
Yeah, it's just a different lifestyle. They see firearms as extreme and offensive.
Right.
And so
I mean, to the point that they don't even think they should be legal. They don't think you should be able to own them.
Right.
So, I mean, they're demonized to the point where they think they should be obliterated from the planet.
Right. So I guess that's the difference. Firearms, like, they hate them. And when I say they, I'm talking decision makers at social media.
Yeah.
Like, they hate that. But when it comes to prepping and survivalist stuff, like they probably just don't care.
Yeah.
It's probably, if I had to, and so because they don't care, it kind of flies
Well, and you
in a
also,
different set of rules.
And you also get into this, it's a niche, like prepper,
Yep.
survivalist, whatever, it's a niche, of course, but you also kind of transfer over into like people who just love the outdoors and love camping.
Right.
All the products are relatively the same, and so even if people don't, call themselves a prepper or something like that, a lot of the gear related items transfer over. And then you've got
Right.
the whole everyday carry crowd, which a lot of them are firearms people, but you look up everyday carry hashtags on Instagram and you don't see a lot of firearms usually. Right. It's pocket knives, it's leather wallets, it's all
little
of those
tools,
those kind of like
widgets,
manly bespoke kind of things, and that kind of stuff. They don't have a problem with that. So a channel that's all about that kind of stuff and teaching survival skills and outdoor skills and reviewing those kinds of products.
It's not scrutinized.
Yeah.
That's good.
So anyway, it is weird, but do you guys you want to keep going on that? You want to get into any questions, Rex? Osiris had some questions there. I don't know.
I would talk about IP theft.
Yeah, I had bumped over to LinkedIn and only saw a couple people on there, and then I saw on the Restream app that there were a whole bunch of comments that I hadn't seen before. I was like, where are all those coming from? So I had to refresh the LinkedIn page, and there's a whole bunch of people chatting over there. So
okay.
None of them are really asking questions though. So yeah, we can certainly hammer on Osiris's questions and then just kind of go that route for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, IP theft. I'm kind of. I will say my recent experience with it has changed my views on how I deal with it. One of my goals when I was in college was to have my name. It was like something that I wrote down in a book. I wanted to have mine be a sole inventor on a patent. And so our backbone frame, we filed for the patent on that, went through the whole process. And honestly, like in the end, it was just a really expensive game. But I could check the box off. But then even now, to keep it, you have to maintain it. You have to actually defend it. And that's another game of just pouring money into IP lawyers, patent attorneys, and it's this back and forth between you and somebody else, and a lot of times it's just I don't enjoy that. I don't like that. That's not kind of my style. And so honestly, the way how I sit right now is instead of paying piles of money to defend, IP, I'm going to put that money into new products. I'm going to put it into marketing. I'm going to put it into, other avenues that will build my customers up and build revenue that way instead of trying to box and people out of my little square. It's hard.
It's tricky. I almost feel like on a small business scale that I don't know. I almost feel like patent stuff is for the big boys. Let the companies that have 5,000 employees and legal teams fight those battles.
Right.
And yeah, it's tough though, because at the same time, as a small business, your products are your revenue.
Right.
And if somebody can come along and just, knock it off and have it made in China and sell it for half as much, right. There's going to be people that are going to buy it from that other guy, so
right.
It's a tough battle to fight. But, like you said, you can just take all that money that you would spend fighting it and spend it growing it and, building more loyal followers instead of attacking, you support. And
right.
I think you can win that way too.
Right. Well, and actually you kind of reminded me of it. You're talking about in the swag pack that you give away, the 2-round holders. Interesting story with that is, we released our version of it probably a year ago now. And I knew that Short Action Precision was making them. There's 3 other companies who make them. And I just thought it was a generic product. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. But we released it, and actually I kind of got blasted right away, like, oh, that's a short action precision, 2-round holder. And I was like, well, sorry guys, I thought it was just, generic, not a big deal. And actually the guys from Short Action Precision, through a mutual friend, like I heard through the mutual friend, like, hey, they're kind of butthurt about this. And so I ended up getting their number, and I called them up, and I'm like, hey guys, I apologize. I'm like, I didn't realize that this was considered like your product. And so it was up for like less than 24 hours, and we pulled it back down just because I was like, I don't want to be known as the guy to rip other people off. And it was definitely taken that way. And all it took was a phone call between them and me. And like, we stopped just because the court of public opinion was way more brutal than and I stepped in that one, and I didn't realize it, but in the end, no lawyers were needed, no bills that way. It was just two guys talking on the phone, and I was like, dang, I completely misread what this product was, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And we both went, and for me too, it was like, this little 2-round holder was not going to make or break my company. And honestly, they're at the point too, like, it's not going to make or break their company, but it's one of those things, like, they have a personal tie to it. Like, there are there are people who make suppressor covers that are knockoffs of ours. And I've tried talking to them, and, it's one of those things that it sucks. And so I don't, it's one of those things, it's a gross feeling, I guess, as a person when it gets knocked off. And so I try to really avoid doing that to other people. So that's one of those times where I kind of stepped in it, and
But I mean, I think you handled it in a way, and I don't know how public, your handling of that situation was.
I've never told the story outside of this. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, having you tell that story, just shows the kind of person that you are and the type of business that you run, where you're not out there trying to screw anybody over, and you're respectful of, some of those products. Like, the law would not tell you that you couldn't make 2-round holders,
right?
Like, you were free to make those. They didn't have it patented, like, whatever, and, certainly there is that public opinion, and you don't want to damage your reputation. And if you go to battle against them, then whoever's, fanboys not fanboys, but whoever's, supporters of their product are going to hate your company, and that doesn't win for anybody, So I think that's an awesome way to have handled that situation. And I've known Nate for a long time. He's a super cool guy. Kind of out in that Arizona crew. Every time I run into him, we always have a good time chatting. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
cool. Did we answer his question, Osiris's question about the IP theft?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a good way to deal with it other than just keep making cool stuff. And
yeah, fortunately, all my patents are like with mega large corporations,
right?
So there's like hordes of lawyers that go fight for them. So that's all kind of fun. Osiris said he was going to use High Desert Sleep Solutions, and my company was one of the reasons that stopped him from using that for fear of cease and desist. That's pretty funny. I don't think I would have sent a cease and desist over that one. That's interesting though. I mean, they're in that instance, right? I've got High Desert Precision. It's a firearm company. High Desert Sleep Solutions sounds like that's not a firearm company. Like, I think you pretty much at that point don't have grounds to send a cease and desist. Like, it's a completely different industry. So, at least that's how I understand the law. Not like I'm a lawyer.
Yep.
Looks like Nick Brown's taking off. Appreciate you being here, dude, as always. Thanks for the support on Patreon from both me and Joel. Nick Brown's my OG Patreon supporter, so pretty excited there.
Yeah, that's right. He beat me to it.
Yeah, lots of High Desert. Yeah, so my dad owns a company called High Desert Investment Company, and I don't know what you would imagine that does, but it's a logging company.
Really?
So High Desert was kind of High Desert Dirt Naps. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I would have thought it was something to do with like financial portfolios or something like that.
That's what you think, right? Yeah. So there's High Desert Investment Company. and then Rybland Logging Company. So they kind of have those two entities, and I don't know how they break up everything.
Whatever. I know. I've met your dad once. It's like some sort of a front company for. he's running like special teams, like special ops guys overseas to do like special missions. I just know it.
Yeah. Yeah, Osiris, I don't think I would have worried about that one, bro. That's funny. So over on LinkedIn, one of my friends, Paul, he actually is, we've been friends for a long time. I was friends with him at Bard Access Systems. So prior to my firearms career, when I was actually still in medical devices, he and I worked together at Bard Access Systems, which is now Gore. No, not Gore. Definitely not Gore. There's a good story there. Is now BD Medical. So that's where he's at. And he's got a question for Dustin. He says, how do you decide what products you want to create next? Just watching for unmet needs in the industry? So Paul started off as an engineer and then kind of made the transition to marketing. So he's kind of curious about those things. And, we certainly talked about it on the last stream, but we could kind of talk about that again.
Yeah. So, I mean, the big thing for me, I try to make it to matches and go to matches. So a lot of the products are, when I'm at a match, I find something that's bothering me and I want to try to address it. So I, start tinkering, start creating that way. Otherwise, is even at match stores throughout our different, social media channels, listening to customers. And we have customers who ask us for all sorts of stuff. Some of them are odd. But a lot of times too, you can, if you just listen to a customer, they'll tell you what you want. And because I try to stay involved with stuff, it's easy to weed out like the obnoxious ones to the ones that actually have some merit. So I think just being involved on a personal level with the industry that I'm in helps a ton, and that's what kind of drives where we're going next.
Do you think, is there a product that you have in your offering today that didn't come like from something you had identified?
That's a really good question. I mean, we've been tasked to develop products for other companies.
Uh-huh.
So yes, I guess so. There are several products that are not ColeTac branded, but we've we've been given, hey, we want you to make this,
Uh-huh.
and different bags or basically, yeah. They'll come up with saying we want this product, and we kind of develop it from there. A lot of times, ideas, yes, especially with sewing, like the amount of work that it takes just from like to take it from like a napkin sketch to a finished product. There is a lot of work involved.
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely have some of those products. But as far as like ColeTac products, I can't think of anything that isn't born out of, frustration from me or, something that I want, like I wish I had this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess when other companies dictate, that's, something, but.
Yeah. So is a majority of the stuff you do like strictly ColeTac products, or is there like a significant portion of business that you do that's kind of OEM stuff?
It's probably 60% ColeTac, 40% OEM. We've got a fair amount that we do that's spread across, and that's not even, a lot of that stuff isn't even in the firearms industry. Random stuff that like kind of weird that we fell into it, but there's not that many companies in the US sewing anymore.
Uh-huh.
So if somebody's looking to have something made in the US, there's not that, it's not that easy to find. You think about most any town has a machine shop where you can go get metal parts turned, or a lot of places, plastic injection molding. You can find there's companies all over the
thousands
country
of them. Yep.
Right. Sit there and think about like sewing companies. Like there's not that many. So
maybe this relates, and I'm just trying to follow along with the conversation. But as I remember, when COVID first kicked off, you guys were working pretty hard to like help make personal protective equipment and stuff for all that, right?
Right. So yeah, when that first kicked off, well, there was a lot of things that happened there where, there was always these there were rumblings of, we're going to start shutting down businesses that aren't deemed essential. And so, one, we wanted to help try to, there was a demand for all these different things, and we had the ability to make all that stuff. And two, like I have a whole bunch of employees that I want to make sure have a job and have a paycheck. And so I want to make sure that I didn't know what the list of essential businesses were, but I'm like, we're going to start making medical stuff. So like we are, I know that that's going to be on the list. So
yeah, that's smart.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like, we're going to start making medical gear. And actually that was kind of that especially in the beginning, it was really frustrating because, we spent, it was a Friday morning, basically. We said, all right, we're going to start making hospital gowns. We started making masks, and we made a boatload of them. But then there's a lot of people at home who can make masks because it's smaller, it's easier to work with. But gowns, they're bigger, a lot harder to cut out, a lot harder to sew. You need to really have a different setup to make a gown. So, like on a Friday morning, we said, all right, we're gonna start making gowns. And so, on a Friday and Saturday, literally we had to buy some specialized equipment that started dealing with lightweight cottons and, different elastic cuffs and, stuff that we've never had to deal with before. And so we bought the equipment literally from like Facebook and Craigslist, found, used industrial equipment, which was kind of weird that we were able to pull that off. And then designed it over the weekend. By Monday, we were making it. And we started producing this because like we could hear that there was just this huge demand for medical PPE. And so like we got in touch with different organizations, mainly at the state level, that just say, hey, we're ready, we're making them, have people contact us. And there were some conversations that the one that sticks out that kind of was the peak of my frustration. We had a lady call up from a hospital and be like, all right, we need gowns and we need them like now. And I'm like, all right, I've got a pallet of them right here next to me. And she's like, she asked, all right, what's pricing? And I told her, I'll say it too. It was $26 a gown. And I'm like, it's $26. And she's like, what? For how many? And I'm like, each. And she's like, how dare you take advantage of a situation like this? And I was like, oh my gosh, like I haven't slept in like several days. We developed this. We've been ramping up, trying to get ready to, supply to you guys because you guys keep saying on the news that you need it. And I'm like, how much do you normally pay? She's like, I pay for a case of 18, I pay $54. And I'm like, $3 a piece. I'm like, I have $19 of material in it. Like literally our just materials alone was $19 to make these gowns. And I'm like, and then it was 45 minutes of sewing time. I was selling it, under cost. I was just trying to recoup some of our money, and mainly I was just trying to keep our employees going.
Trying to stay open. Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Wow.
I was like, what do you expect from us? And it is, that's where it really highlighted, like, I want to make sure I stay more in niches than trying to get in some of those bigger, just commodity type products.
Where you're competing with a Chinese factory that's just like, sending them through one a second or something.
And that's what's crazy is how different people's views are as far as and how they get used to, I guess, pricing that isn't realistic or sustainable for U.S. manufacturing. So, but if people decide that they want American manufacturing, there are a lot of benefits to it. And mainly at that time, it was we had it and they needed it. And it wasn't us, taking advantage of the situation. Because like if that was a normal ColeTac product, like we'd be charging multiple times more than that, and our customers wouldn't, blink an eye at it. But it's
Jared Anderson says he'd buy a hospital gown, so hit him up. He'll buy one.
We have, I think like 3 that we saved kind of as the archive. Like someday when there's a ColeTac museum, we'll hang it up and be like, back when.
Back when we had to keep the doors open, we had to make hospital gowns.
Right. But in the end, though, I mean, so in the end, and that was just kind of in the beginning. By the end, we actually ended up making 60,000 disposable hospital gowns.
Wow.
So like it was crazy the amount of how we set up that process, and we were just cranking away on that. That our cutting machine, our other CNC cutting machine that was running that, it ran nonstop for 2 months, like just cutting and cutting. And we'd sit there and like, and the ColeTac gear too, like our normal stuff was booming at the same time. So like we would sit there and like sneak in at like weird hours just to let it sit there and run a little bit and, get it off the machine so we could keep going with hospital gowns. It was this weird, time for us, but it was fun, challenging, but, and we really got a good system down by the end. We were pretty dang efficient with it, but there were some definite like pains in the beginning, like that one conversation with that lady. I wanted to reach through the phone and yeah.
I mean, how much of a struggle was that? Because I mean, you're so honed into the not just firearm niche, but the precision rifle niche within the firearm niche. Like you have that market kind of figured out as far as what they need, how they're marketed to, kind of that whole jazz, how they're sold to. I mean, how much of a challenge was it to completely 360-degree pivot from that to selling hospital equipment? I mean, did you have to sell through, medical distributors and stuff like that, or were you able to go direct?
No,
how did you figure all that out?
Yeah, we sold well. So we got listed. The state of New Hampshire had a list of like supply. We reached out to them and we had a list of, or we ended up on a list of people who, we were suppliers within the state that could supply. So like a lot of those hospitals just contacted us directly. And then, in the end, where the bulk of those gowns went was to the state of New Hampshire, because they had an issue. They had orders coming in from overseas that either were absolute garbage and they had to reject them because they didn't work, or B, FEMA was taking them and sending them to New York because they felt like New York needed them more. So they wanted a source within the state that was basically direct and couldn't be tampered with. And so it was a challenge to find those couple key components, but and it took way longer than what I thought, given what we were hearing on the news as far as there was so much demand, and a need for it, that I thought that it was going to be a slam dunk. We were going to be making these things and not have to worry about trying to find homes for it. It was weeks into making this stuff, and we were just piling it up basically, and it's like, what's going on? And eventually, like,
you're like, fingers crossed, I hope this stuff can sell.
Well, and even so, like, part of it, a lot of it was too, like, as long as we're making medical gear, like, we'll be considered essential. Like, just keep doing it.
Make one a day to like technically every day. Our production is making gowns.
Right. So, there was that was a part of it, but it was frustrating. But honestly, now, looking back, like, it's kind of that sense of accomplishment, like sitting there cranking out that many and that short of 60,000 in a matter of it's just over 2 months. So like we it was fun to be able to. It's nice to be able to look back on that and be like, we got work done.
Well, and hand sewn on sewing machines, like people don't understand that probably. Like you've got ladies sitting in there like running a machine. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like
that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean,
it was like different materials, different machines, and I will say the one nice thing that did happen is the FDA. They were lax on their scrutiny as far as like certification for gear. So, for medical stuff. So, all of our stuff from how I interpreted all their standards, they met the standards, but you know, they all before this, and I think it's probably started back up again. Like in order to sell it, you have to send it out to an independent lab to be tested and certified. Where, you know, at that time it was like,
we'll take whatever we can get. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a testament to your ability to pivot to make things work. I mean, that's like a really creative way to get through the Rona.
The Rona. Yeah.
Okay. So jumping kind of out of that conversation and into kind of a thought that I had when we were talking on the last stream, just kind of going back to that, you know, 2016 era when it's just you and your wife solving a problem in your spare bedroom and then your basement. I mean, what did your kind of branding and your positioning and your marketing all look like? Like, how did you get to a point where people knew you were doing? How did you get to a point where some dude in Salt Lake City, Utah, knew who you were?
Right. Well, I mean, so I think the big thing for us was social media. We partnered, and I there's a couple guys that I basically hounded nonstop until they actually answered my messages to say, like, I was just saying, like, I want to send you all this stuff. Just like, give me an address.
Like influencer type guys?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And that is the benefit of our product is, like, especially when we're the manufacturer of it, you know, in the beginning, you know, material costs aren't that much, but it's a lot of labor, and it was our labor. So, you know, it's free labor, right? Like we could justify sending someone a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of it ended up just kind of what I call it as cameos within other videos that they were doing. So, like, you know, they're reviewing a silencer, and that's the main feature product, but our stuff is, you know, the cover for it or the bag supporting the rifle in the video. And so, like, you know, it was a lot of just, you know, partnering with partnering or just like sending free stuff to influencers. And so, like, our name got out there, and because that's, you know, it's what the industry that I enjoyed watching or, you know, I followed closely. I've still followed closely because it's what I like to do. Like, I knew it's the people who I liked watching were the people who I worked with and partnered up with. And, you know, and especially in the beginning, you know, the whole reason my wife and I, we started several other businesses before this one, and none of them really ever took off. But, you know, what I think the secret sauce for this one was, you know, she was really good at sewing, and I was really good with, you know, kind of engineering a little bit. And then, you know, I knew the marketing side as far, like, I knew what, you know, the people who to get in touch with, and how to, you know, how I would want to see a product sold, and how I want you know, like, set the tone for customer service. And, you know, like, so it was a good pair for both of us, where, you know, she was using her skills for sewing. I was using mine as far as, like, industry knowledge. And it kind of just spawned off of that. Yeah,
that's cool. It's always, I mean, that's kind of the niche that I'm working in, right? Is kind of working with businesses, you know, not to say that I'm not looking to work with businesses that are kind of to the point where you're at, but one of the things I really enjoy is helping brands kind of get out of their basement and kind of come out to the world. And
social media,
figuring out that strategy of, like, what works best. And very often it is social media. And then dealing with firearm companies, it's hard to, like, well, what's that plan look like? You know, is it just posting every day and, like, hoping that the algorithm is going to show you, or how to get creative beyond just posting content and getting people to interact with it? You know? So
I go through spurts where I'm more. I'm not as lazy with posting on social media, but I at least repost it once a day. Yeah. And I don't know if it helps or not, but, like, it's consistent. I don't, you know, there's never, like, this, you know, weeks. I mean, maybe will go a day or two without posting something, but that's pretty few and far between. But otherwise, I, like, try to religiously at least repost every day. but and especially in the beginning when no one else is posting your stuff, you have to have a lot of original content because it takes more work and it's more effort.
Yeah.
But I go through spurts where like, okay, I'm going to start doing more original content because we do get way more, traction with that stuff.
Like your bulletproof vest for dogs.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, but it's just simple, even like Instagram posts, it's so much easier just to hit the, share with Regram, and it sits there and does everything for me. And I just like, I'm done. And I feel like I did something.
Yeah.
But, and it's better. And I feel like that's better than doing nothing.
Yeah, for sure.
Original stuff is always, for us, we see way more traction with it and get way more reach with it. And,
fortunately / unfortunately, it like the content that I put more effort into does better.
Right.
So like if I just like snap a cell phone picture of whatever I'm doing and slap it up there, it's like meh, it doesn't necessarily fall flat, but like people don't get excited about it. But like if I like super edit a photo, or if I like sketch a rifle and do something funny, make a bunch of funny comments on it, or if I like do a really good, graphically designed post about the fundamentals of marksmanship, or, those times that I've put a lot of effort into a post have got really, really good reactions and really well received, and it gets shared and saved and, all that jazz. So from one standpoint, it's like really nice. 'Cause it's like, oh, like the effort that I put in there paid off. So I'll probably keep doing that,
Right.
Versus if it was just like, you put all that, which is part of why what I'm doing now is hard, because I'm used to having this 24 to 16,000 follower base that like sees my stuff. And then, starting a new company, I've got Rex Allen Creative, which is kind of my brand that speaks to other business owners and other creatives and is kind of my educational platform, I guess you could call it. But then I've got my, media and marketing company, Stoked Design Co. And like, that's from the ground up fresh, like 0 followers, nothing page, so putting effort into posts that get seen by like 2 people, it's like really hard for me, so it's just kind of like finding that balance of like effort to volume and kind of how to balance.
Well, that's it too. And then what's your time worth? I mean, you talk about those posts like on Instagram where you're editing something and you're putting up like all 10 slides that you can do, and each slide leads to the next one, like you're trying to make a point or tell a story or whatever. Like the only time that I've done that on my Instagram, just like you said, I put a lot of time and effort into it, and it still to date is my best post ever. Like a ton of saves, a ton of shares, a ton of involvement with it. But it probably took me 2.5, 3 hours of solid time to craft that thing.
Right.
And I'm like, gosh, and it ultimately, did it really make me any money directly? No,
but it's a long game. You got to,
So it's like, I don't know.
Anybody who thinks like, I don't think that there's a way on social media to do anything quick. You have to play the long game.
Yeah.
It takes definitely kind of build results.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm kind of in the early stages of starting out a new long game for a new venture. And, I just have to have the faith that what I've done in the past for my own brands, I can do again, especially if I'm not, specifically targeting firearm stuff, with Stoked Design Co. I can kind of hide the fact that most of my content is gun stuff,
right.
And just kind of have it be a media and marketing company. And then Rex Allen Creative, more focused on cameras and all that gear. So it's kind of a good outlet to not be gun related. So yeah, certainly tricky, but I don't know. It's good and bad that the content that you put a lot of effort into does massively better because you get the reward out of the effort that you put in, but then does that correlate to dollars back in your pocket versus if I was just doing client work for those 3 hours? Like, well, no, but you got to do both, right? So it's kind of that you got to sow and you got to sell. And if you're selling, you're not sowing. And if you're sowing, you're not selling. So you got to find that balance, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, Osiris is saying my post on the Sony Cinema series comes to mind. So I think he's talking about. I posted a picture of my FX3, and I was kind of like poking fun at Sony for like slapping a new skin on the A7S3, and like making a bunch of little minor changes and calling it a new camera. And that post went pretty viral. You know, as far as just like original content that was cool looking and eye catching. You know, it was
Right.
fun to see that happen especially on a page that's, you know, not terribly well viewed, you know. So yeah, content marketing, man, it's fun. I like it. It's like the world I live now.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Your wife's kitten page?
I mean, in a roundabout way, kind of.
My phone just got blown up with my cameras, my security system back home.
Oh yeah.
And something tripped the cameras, and so I opened up the page to look at it, and it's my wife's dumb cat.
With Toast the cat.
Yep.
Yeah, it's always Toast the cat.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So
animal pages seem to be the hot thing. Actually, we moved out here from all the way from New Hampshire, brought a truckload of animals, legitimately a truckload of animals. But
probably broke some state laws in the process.
4 horses. But one of it's kind of sad. My daughter, she has a rabbit, and she has a TikTok page with this rabbit where it's just like stupid videos with this rabbit, but it's cute little rabbit videos, and like all these people were loving it. We move out here, 2 days later, the rabbit dies. Like, oh no, and I don't know. That's Napoleon bunny part.
Super funny.
Yeah, he didn't make it, but I don't know. So, but it's kind of weird to see how much, like, she can post this little video, this bunny hopping around, and people just find it adorable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what the heck is going on here? Osiris just asked a couple questions, I guess. One of them, are any plans or strategies for cost increases and inflation issues?
Yeah. I mean, so that's honestly, if I had to pick something that is most, I don't know, nerve-wracking, but is something that concerns me, is inflation. And it's more, like this game of if price of goods go up, obviously salaries have to go up in order to keep it. And like this, how do you balance, the increase? How do you keep the amount of, or how do you guys, I guess, increase wages without overshooting it, but yet still go up high enough to keep employees?
Yeah.
And it's like, that makes me like, I don't even know how to, I don't know how to play that, and it's definitely has me nervous. But the big thing for me, what I'm trying to do is I want to build a place, because a lot of times employees, when they're leaving, it's not, generally speaking, it's not about just the money. And I know, like, I don't know, it's definitely a big part of it. But I want to make a happy place to be. I want to make it fun. I want to make it rewarding as well. And I'm going to try to do my best to keep that balance. But that's a big thing. And then we're really trying to do everything we can to make our processes more efficient, because our number one cost by far in all of our products is labor. The material side of it is next to nothing percentage wise, as far as most of our products. So
if you can increase efficiency by 10%, I mean, you just essentially cut 10% of your cost off of the product.
And so that's we do a lot with lean manufacturing and trying to set up our areas so our employees are productive and efficient at what they're doing, because that's where the most juice can be squeezed. So we're, as of right now, we have no plans for a price increase. Given if the current price increases that we're getting from our materials, it's really not going to be a big deal. But if the labor side is something that I'm going to have to try to way out. And I'm hoping we can counteract that with just becoming more efficient.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if the material is a negligible aspect of, the price of the product, then it can kind of increase and you won't feel it too much.
That's bad. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Trying to think if I have any other insightful questions for you. I mean, those were kind of the few that came up when we were chatting about, business
Lean
stuff earlier. Everybody loves lean. So do you handle all the lean manufacturing initiatives with your engineering background, or do you have like a lean person?
I don't have a lean. No, I don't have a lean person. It is me. But we've also kind of been trying to build a system where, like the employees themselves are coming up with the improvements and suggesting the new things and trying to actually implement them. We're really trying to empower them at their level to do this, because I can't do it all. Like I try to set a general tone and a general path, but when it comes down to the nitty gritty, because they're the ones, especially most or all of our products now, I have sewn them the least out of any of our employees, because I'll sew the first couple prototypes, also the first couple in production, trying to figure out the general flow. But then after that, they're the ones who are there day after day making all these things. And so they're, really trying to listen to them as far as, what bothers them. And that's kind of what I tell them is look at things that annoy you when you're making these products, and there's always a better way to do it.
So really your job is almost becomes like the facilitator to just help them feel like they are enabled and empowered to make changes to the process and fix things and kind of go that route.
And something that I always we try it. A lot of times they'll say, well, I think it'd be better if we do it this way. It's well, let's try it. I'm not afraid of trying. And a lot, especially, when we first develop a process, it's usually my vision of how it should go. And I had, and I'm not afraid for them to sit there and say, I really think that we should be doing these steps reversed, or I should be holding it this way, or we need a fixture to hold this, the way how you're doing it is dumb. I'm cool. Let's try it your way. And, let's let the numbers, decide. On which is better. And it's that's the only way to really, I think, have that kind of just general philosophy, because if it's only me, I'm already a bottleneck in our company, and I know that. I am. And that's with this whole move, what I want to try to do is, right now I'm, director of marketing, director of sales, director of engineering, director of lean manufacturing. And I want to try to find people to, take over all these things. But in order to do that, we need to have 4 or 5 sewers to help pay for that and to justify the work that they're going to create because of it. And so there's so many people that we need to add to get to that level, that to start taking those things off me, because I realize when everything has to go through me, when I have all these things, today I'm, when Joel came, I'm sitting here plugging in the wires and connecting the new laser that just got delivered, yesterday. I like doing that kind of stuff, but there's so many other things I should be doing probably, but to try to find someone to do that, it's this never ending circle of
for sure. I mean, a lot of those culture things, they really do start at the top, so if the guy at the top is on board with what you're trying to achieve culture wise, then it really does kind of trickle down to the employees. At Gunworks, we did a lot of, lean initiatives and lean type stuff. One of the big ones that we really focused on, so there's a guy called Paul Akers. I don't know if you've seen any of his stuff.
I know, dude, Fat Snap.
Yeah, so he's got the 2-second lean thing, right? So essentially every single day at Gunworks, we would start the day with a company-wide meeting, at least for the manufacturing, because sales and marketing were in another building. But we'd get all of manufacturing together every single day, and we'd take turns sharing our 2-second lean project. So we called it What Sucks, right? So fix what sucks. And just we were trying to establish this idea that if you see something in your workstation or in the company or in any process anywhere, you are encouraged and able to fix it. Right. And then every single day we'd have a new person showcase what they chose as their kind of bigger project to fix within the company. And it was really cool to see it. But at the same time, culturally, the kind of upper leadership were not really on board with what we were trying to accomplish. So we had COO was on board, and then, I was in charge of engineering, and, we were really doing it. And the production manager, we were all kind of on board, but then we had a couple people within the company that just had these bad attitudes about it. And this is a waste of time. And, started from the top, and like, it really, really made it. I mean, it made it impossible to implement that cultural change because employees thought it was stupid because the people at the top thought it was stupid.
So yeah, no, honestly, like a lot of my ideas as far as how we handle ourselves is from Paul Akers. So like, I drank the Kool-Aid. I see I see the value in it, and I think it's important.
Well, especially, in a company, in an organization where efficiency matters, throughput matters. At Gunworks, it matters to an extent, but, our chambering machine can only go so fast. So ultimately, there's a bottleneck. And unless we change something there, like efficiency doesn't matter as much because there's only so much we could do,
Oh, you can do it faster though.
Yeah. Just turn the spindle speeds up.
We should have a talk about speeds when, how you'd be shocked at how fast a barrel gets chambered at Ruger.
At Ruger?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can always go faster. You just got to push it harder.
Just got to, push it harder. Hold it tighter. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's, so that's kind of, I really try to have them focus on that. And, especially when it's such a labor-intensive process, like we need to find every way to do it. So,
yeah, I'm surprised you don't have a bunch of Fanuc robots programmed to like sew everything. I mean, get on that already, dude.
I want one. I'm pretty certain here by the end of the year we'll have a cobot. I don't know what I'm going to use it for yet, but I want one.
Just want one.
And I honestly think once I get one, I'll find uses for it.
Yeah.
But it's fixturing for sewing is hard. Everything's soft and movable, and it's hard to grab stuff repeatably.
Yeah.
To where you can automate it.
To where a robot could do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you toured any factories in China that make similar? I mean, not just China, but have you toured any kind of overseas factories to see how they mass produce stuff to a scale of where they can sell hospital gowns for $3?
No, I've never been to Asia, and that's something that I ended up befriending a guy who he's like the director of sales for North and South America for Tatanka backpacks. They're giant, and Tasmanian tigers. So but it's a German company. He lives in Germany, but he grew up in the town that our other plant is in, out in New Hampshire.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So like him and I have met up, and they manufacture everything in Vietnam. And I had an open invitation to go with him to Vietnam to see their their place. And that was one of the things that we were talking about doing last summer, and then got COVIDed. And so yeah, I have not, and that's something that I really want to see. That I do spend a lot of time, honestly, for us. Like YouTube is amazing for like I peruse. There's I have a whole like library of videos that I've saved as far as like it's foreign manufacturing where like it's sweatshops, but they do some weird things that like how they set their stuff up to be so efficient. So I peruse YouTube a lot and get different manufacturing ideas from there. Yeah, but I really want to see like those large scale manufacturing places.
Yeah. I mean, I've been over there and visited. I mean, we were looking at optics manufacturers and flashlight stuff,
right?
And I think smaller economies of scale, but still doing higher volume than any stuff I've ever seen, stateside.
Right.
It's pretty cool to kind of see how they do stuff over there.
Yep.
I think in America we kind of have this notion that Chinese stuff is crap. And I think a lot of times it is, but they can certainly make stuff really well too if you hold them to it,
Right.
Um,
Well, a lot of times people want they want it for a certain price here, and you get what you pay for. Like, yeah, there are Asian manufacturers who can make absolutely amazing, whatever. They're phenomenal, manufacturers over there.
Yeah.
But when you ask them to meet a price point, a lot of times they can find ways to do it, and it sucks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily their style of manufacturing or if it's just what we ask for as far as like a country.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Olights. Yep, I've seen the place where some of the Olight stuff is made. They definitely can make good stuff. I mean, a lot of it comes down to specs and then quality control. So if you have quality control that can catch it if and when they try to cut corners and tell them to not do that, then you can kind of hold them to a whole nother quality standard. So it's kind of interesting.
Yep.
Just check. For some reason LinkedIn's kind of weird. Like you have to refresh the page to see any of the comments. It's kind of bogus. Doesn't look like anything's firing off over there too much anymore.
Osorio said he'd apply. He could sell anything other than
Descent and
dude, that guy comes up with some.
I can teach anybody to sew. Honestly, I can teach people to sew if they have a good attitude.
Yeah.
So put in your application, Osorio. Come on out. Black Hills are beautiful.
That dude comes up with some good zingers, man. He's got the jokes. Keep that guy around for the kind of strategic pivots into something funny.
Absolutely.
He's always got the jokes. It's interesting how, from Joel's stream and then coming onto this stream, we've kind of found a handful of people that are interested in cameras and film and business and all that kind of stuff that kind of come over and stick with us for hours and hours as Joel and I kind of ramble on and on and on. So it's kind of fun.
It still amazes me how fast an hour and a half can go by.
I know. We've been on this one for an hour and 20.
Yeah, hour and 17 according to my
Yeah, it's fun. But I don't know that I've really got anything specific that I want to talk about. We can kind of hit more gear stuff when you're back in the studio.
Yep, sounds good.
But yeah, man, it was super fun catching up, Dustin. This is certainly the longest you and I have ever had the chance to talk. But
I know
it's been pretty cool, dude.
Yeah, we need to do more chatting, I think. So.
Yeah, I mean, as I get more and more into, owning my own business and running my own business and figuring all that out and trying to grow and, work with clients and work with brands and stuff, it's like the more people that are kind of doing that type of thing already, it's like people I need to get into my network to where I'm chatting more often with them. Not that they always have a whole lot of time, but yeah, it was good to have you on. We certainly appreciate you taking a couple hours, a couple 3 hours, as my old machine shop boss used to talk.
Right.
It'll take
I appreciate you having me on.
Hours. Yeah, it's been pretty fun, dude.
All right, cool.
Let's see. Osiris, new gig designing and 3D printing prosthetics goes sideways. He'll come see you.
All right. Doors open, man.
Yeah, well, we'll go ahead and shut the stream off, and appreciate everybody that's been on watching on all the channels. Looks like Twitch doesn't really get any people on it, but LinkedIn and YouTube were better than they have been. So that was pretty cool to have more people watching, and hopefully more people will watch later. So we'll see you all around and appreciate watching.
Sounds good. Thank you.
If I can find my mouse on my huge screen.